Hello, you're listening to the Rosenfeld Review. This is the Rosenfeld, Lou, and I'm here today with my guest, Zariah Cameron. Hi, Zariah.
Hi, how are you?
I am good. It is almost 5 p.m. on a Friday, and yet I'm feeling great. And the weather's beautiful here in Brooklyn. I'm ready for the weekend, but I'm looking forward to this conversation. For those of you listening in, Zariah is co-director of community and research and founder of the AEI design program. AEI is Advocate, Educate, Innovate Black Design. She is also a speaker at October's DesignOps Summit. Yes, the 7th DesignOps Summit that Rosenfeld Media has produced. I can't believe it. Zariah is giving a talk entitled Streamlining an Inclusive Design Practice. And we're going to dive into that a bit. Really looking forward to really thinking through the intersection of design operations and inclusive design. Interested in seeing what ideas you have there, Zariah.
Yeah, well, I'm looking forward to this conversation and really delving into my talk today with you all.
Excellent.
And with you.
Well, before we jump in, I'll just add a few things that listeners may be interested in knowing. That you are also, besides working on the AI design program, which we'll talk about in a moment, and your presentation at the DesignOps Summit, you are an equity-centered UX strategist at Ally, and I'm happy about that. I'm a happy customer of Ally. And you're very involved in the Iroko Cooperative, which I think you're going to talk about a little bit toward the end of the podcast. But let's talk about inclusive design. And now, are you, for your talk at the summit, are you looking to basically talk more about principles and how to essentially build them or make them very central to the kind of processes that people in design operations are responsible for? Or does it go a little more deeper into the actual operationalization of inclusive design or something else altogether?
I would say definitely the third one. It's a little bit of both, I would say, but definitely more of the second one when it comes to operationalizing, right? So, I mean, the foundation of the talk is like us having these principles and even ideologies of design or even inclusive design, because there are companies that do have these frameworks, so to speak, or ideas of inclusive design, but it's almost like this trophy that they just have sitting up, and they don't really use it that often. They don't really touch it. It's just something that looks nice, but it's not really implemented. And so beyond the principles, beyond sort of these inclusive design statements, it goes into how can we actually implement this and streamline this within the work that we do. And that can be operationally from, the actual processes of the way that we design to the actual employee experience for our, UX designers, our UX team members. So looking at it from sort of all those different angles.
So it sounds like there's a lot of window dressing right now. And maybe what you're talking about is helping organizations take it to the next step, at least, and maybe even beyond that, to operationalize some of those principles. Can you give us an example of a principle that you've heard that you really wish would actually get put into place operationally?
The big one that you do hear a lot, especially like, I think this was pretty much coined by Microsoft, I believe, when it comes to the concept of inclusive design, is like solve for one, extend to many. And you definitely hear that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But what does that exactly mean? And a lot of times it only, sometimes only means, centering on, the disability community, which is great. And, that's a first step, right? Centering on, but there are other, socioeconomic, there's other classes and groups of people that, are on the margins that deserve to be represented, deserve to be, um, really brought within the conversation, to really co-create and build on this overall ideology of moving forward to an inclusive practice.
So, talk a little bit more about what that means in terms of helping design ops leaders, or just really any design leaders, start taking a step toward more of an operationalized approach. I don't know if Microsoft is a good example, if you've had any observation of them, or are there other organizations maybe that you've seen take this in a good direction?
Well, I think sometimes, when it comes to inclusive design, people just automatically think of accessibility, but it's definitely deeper and more than that. And it can really extend to this concept or this framework of equity design. And so when we look at that, it's really, equity design, inclusive design really means, actually working with building, with the people who are most marginalized and who are, underserved. And again, like I said, who are kind of living on the margins as the ones, or these edge cases, as in corporate would say, that often are not really being properly represented. And so
I love where you're going. I'm just wondering if you're seeing that, like, any organizations or people like that have an interesting story to tell at this point about their efforts in this
yeah,
area.
I personally, I think that there's a lot of grassroots organizations that I think that I've seen that are actually doing, amazing work, and doing such a phenomenal job with co-creating, that I don't think that, on the corporate level, we've really seen executed in the best way. And that can mean like actually partnering with organizations that already have sort of that, diverse pool of participants that they're
Hmm.
able to research and co-create with. Um, Sometimes, the idea of co-creation to corporate is just having one session with the group and, that group of diverse participants, and then sort of moving on and not really coming back to get feedback or insight from them. And so sort of, certain companies, foundationally, their idea of what inclusive design, um, is actually just, the tip of the iceberg, when they could really be going deeper than what they're actually doing.
So, I hear you saying one of the places maybe that they fall short is follow through. Maybe another is not really adopting co-creation, or some sort of participatory design approach. Like,
Yeah.
I think a lot about Victor Uewa, who's been really involved in a couple of our conferences, especially advancing research, and he's really pushing the idea of radical participatory design.
Yes.
And maybe that's sort of like the cutting edge here. But one thing I learned just like this week on LinkedIn, I'd asked for people to give me a sense of the nuances between the terms, and I was really talking about plain language. How does inclusive language differ? If what is the difference between inclusive language and plain language and accessible language? And the feedback I got was that accessibility, in this context at least, is passive, and inclusive is active. So with inclusive language, you have to maybe approach the people you are hoping to serve,
Yeah.
rather than kind of hoping that you learn passively, or you provide benefits passively to
What
people.
already exists and what's
Right.
already there.
So maybe that's like table stakes, like the sort of realization that you've got to move from a passive, accessible approach with your design work to something that's a bit more inclusive and active.
Yeah, and understanding that you can't have these assumptions of what you think that, these different groups need, versus actually moving towards sort of this space of asking them what they need and what their challenges are, and understanding one group or one person doesn't represent the larger oversight of group, and that everyone has a story. Like, just because I'm a Black woman doesn't mean that I represent every single Black woman's experience, even if it may be similar. There are always those differences. And understanding the importance of intersectionality. I think a lot of times, um, I've seen this a lot where, for example, they may be, a case where they are interviewing or talking to people who are within the disabled community, but there's no intersectionality. So it's like they're only talking, for example, and I've had conversations with one of my friends before who is a part of the disabled community, is that like there's no real representation. There may be like, okay, we've interviewed, a white male who is blind, and that's like our representation, and that's who we're going to represent for the entire like disabled community experience, versus understanding the intersectionality of, okay, maybe we should get someone who is Hispanic, woman, blind, because her experience may be completely and is completely different, because now you're adding gender, race, and their disability within that factor, which changes the entire scope of the problem you're trying to solve, or the challenges that may even come about.
Do you feel like there is, so like, one thing I've heard, and I'm not necessarily agreeing, is that to find people at those intersections can be challenging. Like, I have mixed feelings about that, because I think a lot of times people just say that without really making the effort. That said, do you also find that there are benefits to broadening the pool of people you're working with, so that collectively they are more intersectional, but maybe not at an individual level?
Yeah, I believe so. I mean, I don't I I personally don't necessarily think it's hard to find, I know there are people who want to be able to share their experience, especially if
Mm-hmm.
it means, you know, it means in hopes that their experience with this product or system becomes better, you know. Um, so I think that there are definitely ways. I mean, there's, like I said, there's definitely partnerships that can happen with organizations who are already like having the existence of pool of people that you can gather from. Again, grassroots organizations, agencies that are more on the ground with the communities that I've seen, where companies have like maybe said, okay, we may not have the knowledge, but we're going to partner with this agency, we're going to partner with this organization to, essentially get this intel, this insight from the group of people that we may not be able to initially have access to.
I'm really glad you're saying that, because what you're saying is, in effect, you have to have some relationships in place to support
Yeah,
this work.
those external partnerships.
And relationships don't happen overnight. You have to
Right.
cultivate them, you have to build them, you have to think in advance and work on them over time. And so maybe that is a big sort of place to start for design leaders of any type who care about this and want to go beyond just the talking points, the window dressing of principles, and put them into action.
I most certainly agree. I really do believe in communal work, and that communal relationship type of work. Um, and I think sometimes it can often be treated as transactional, which, depending on what type of industry you work in, whether it's finance or healthcare, especially those spaces that really systemically, they shouldn't be transactional because you're talking about people's livelihoods. So it's important to build those relationships, to cultivate those relationships, and to create those bonds to really achieve, this centralized like togetherness, and product.
Now, is the AEI Design Initiative one of those organizations? I think you're the you're one of the founders of it, or the founder, if I actually remember your bio from a few minutes ago. But is that a group that people should know about in terms of building those relationships?
I mean, I would say, and I think this goes to like the operational side of things when it comes to like hiring, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
having the right people in the room, which is something that I will be talking about or discussing in my talk. But
Mm-hmm.
my organization is really centered on like educating and advocating for young Black design students. And this was in the lieu of when I was a student and seeing that there wasn't that much representation within the industry. There was also gaps within the preparation of, helping them receive job opportunities and just the skill sets to prepare them to be, the designer that this industry is quote unquote looking for. And so I created this organization to build community, but also to kind of provide these skill sets for these students that often felt really siloed or isolated within, the design industry, the design space, and really just trying to get a leg up and also have a voice. And so I would say, like, even though my organization is maybe not necessarily one of those organizations, but
Mm-hmm.
in the aspect, it's a small portion, simply because when it comes to the hiring factor of having not only researching diverse participants, but also having diverse people and representation within the room to make decisions to add value and various different opinions. I think that's where those factors come in, and they really truly add value to why or how we can, again, not only from a customer standpoint, from internal employee standpoint.
So, digging into that a little bit more, I know that maybe the roots or the DNA of AEI come from North Carolina A&T State U, which is the largest historically Black college or university in the U.S. Are you
Yes.
working with other HBCUs and bringing their people into the design world?
Yeah, I did take a small pause, but I want to bring AI design back. I took a pause simply because it's mental health is very important, and I always speak to that to my students that I mentor, and but yes, at the time I was working with various different HBCU students who were designers, and it just when I started the organization, it amazed me how many you know, HBCUs actually did have a design program. And a lot of people just don't know. And a lot of people, when they say, oh, well, there's not like Black design, young Black design talent, or like there's no Black designers at HBCUs, it's, it's very wild to me that, people, if you just do the research, you'll find the answers you're looking for, and you'll see that there's so many talented Black designers, young Black designers, especially HBCUs. And there's just such a story to tell there, from their experience. I know my experience, being able to have supportive Black design professors and seeing that representation, as a college student, and really wanting to like advocate for that now going into the corporate space was truly important to me.
Well, that's great. And it's yet another example of needing to take a little time to do
Yeah.
this, to invest some time. Speaking of time, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. You're listening to the Rosenfeld Review. Hey, it's Lou, and I am here to tell you that we have another conference coming up. And this one is the biggest one that we do all year. It's the DesignOps Summit. It's taking place virtually October 2nd through 6th, 2023. you're going to want to be part of it. Even if you're not a design ops practitioner, you might be without realizing it. Certainly if you're a design manager, design program manager, design leader, or someone who works with things like research repositories, design systems, I think you probably are doing something related to design operations. And we have just launched the program. You're going to want to check it out. It is en fuego. Hope to see you October 2nd through 6th at the DesignOps Summit. Welcome back to the Rosenfeld Review. I'm Lou Rosenfeld. I'm talking with Zariah Cameron. And we were going to talk a little bit more about some of the organizations that you can partner with. Again, don't wait to the last minute. This takes some time. You need to make an investment. But I know, Zariah, there's a few organizations that you can probably name just off the top of your head that would be really interesting for people to look at and to start creating those relationships and ultimately partnerships. What do you got for us?
Yeah, so I would definitely say the Creative Reaction Lab by Antoinette Carroll. She's someone that I truly admire and actually base a lot of my equity design framework on. And so she definitely has a lot of like workshops and grassroots type of, opportunities for you to really get involved and invested within their work, and for you to also partner with them to really just start the groundwork of, leaning towards, a more equitable product. And then same thing with Pause and Effect by Sabrina. I cannot remember her name, but Pause and Effect by Sabrina. It's a company in Canada, but they definitely they focus on equitable and regenerative, sustainable futures, and really, kind of the same concept of working with organizations, working with companies to really just ensure that you're creating an equitable practice, not only for people, but for the earth as well.
And there's another organization maybe that you have something to do with. It's called Oroco.
Yes, Oroco Cooperative is an organization that I'm a part of, and so something that I'm truly proud of. We are a multidisciplinary organization that's really dedicated to just cultivating a future of Black liberation, care, and well-being. And so, we support a wide range of projects and services and even products that truly help to nurture and elevate the communities within the margin, and to really just cultivate that space of equity, liberation, and ecocentricity. So very similar in a way, but we definitely are really built on the space of community and community healing. And for any Black designers, Black creatives that want to join that community, we encourage you, but also organizations that really want to partner with us as well. We're open to that too.
Fantastic. Well, you've really covered a lot of ground, and I know it's just part of some of the ideas that you're going to be talking about at the DesignOps Summit in early October, everyone. Zariah's talk is entitled, at the moment, because these things can change, Streamlining an Inclusive Design Practice. And I mean, I really love how you've already given us some concrete ideas and really next steps for getting beyond the window dressing approach to just having a nice set of inclusive design principles that sit on the shelf and unfortunately for many organizations are just sitting there for show and gathering dust. So thank you for that. Before we wrap up, I'm going to be asking this question: what gift did you bring for our listeners?
Well, the gift that I want to be able to give to our listeners is encouraging everyone to registration should be open soon, but definitely check out the State of the Black Design conference that will be coming soon in March of next year. And it's titled We the People. And this is really a conference for, conversation events related to Black design. And, sort of our overarching theme for this year is called We the People. And so we believe it's this declarative statement that really encompasses those who dream of opportunities and those who design the partnerships needed to attain them. And so this conference will be held on an HBCU this year, Tennessee State University. And so, we're partnering with a lot of different people for this conference, but we encourage everyone to look and get your notifications up so you can see when registration drops, so you can participate in this virtual and in-person conference.
Hybrid. Awesome.
Yes. I should have said hybrid, but
oh no. I mean, hybrid is virtual and in person. So however you put it, it sounds like it's going to be a great opportunity taking place in March at you said at Tennessee State?
Yes, Tennessee State.
What city is that in,
What city? Nashville, Tennessee.
Oh, in Nashville. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that is our time, but you've given us a lot to think about and look forward to, including not just the Black Design Conference, but your own presentation at the DesignOps Summit in early October. Zariah, thank you so much for joining us on the Rosenfeld Review. It's been a pleasure having you.
Thank you so much. I enjoyed speaking with you.
Awesome. We'll see you soon. Hey, it's Lou. Thank you for listening to the latest Rosenfeld Review podcast. I really appreciate it. I would love to hear from you. And if you want to pop me an email, lou@rosenfeldmedia.com, tell me what you thought. Better yet, leave me the hell alone and post a review on your favorite podcast platform. Please feed the algorithm. It really does make a difference. We want to get the word out. If you like the word, give us a hand. And while I'm asking you for favors, don't forget, buy books. Support your favorite local independent publisher. We happen to be one, rosenfeldmedia.com. All those great UX books are there. So, thanks again.